India is a land of a lot of temperature fluctuations. If you're keeping the same sunscreen when you're traveling to Leh Ladakh in a minus 10 degrees Celsius and then you're coming back to Coimbatore in a 42, 43 degrees Celsius, there are a lot of sunscreen which will break down.
India has hundreds of skincare brands for women. And if you're going for parties, it's completely different products. But what about boys? Specifically, if we're talking about 11 to 20 years boys, there's nothing.
So this is the bottle. It dispenses from this side also. It dispenses from this side also.
Welcome to another episode of D2C Stories, the future of D2C told through stories powered by experts. India has hundreds of skincare brands for women, especially for teenage girls. For working professionals, there are different brands. So there are different brands for different time, different days. Can be hundreds of products for based on kind of skin they have, kind of like morning, evening, there is different products. And if you're going for parties, it's completely different products. But what about boys? Specifically, we are talking about 11 to 20 years boys. There's nothing like there are a lot of problems. I know because I am a dad to a teenager. There are problems with early hair loss. You can see mine too. There is problem with body odor, confidence issues. A lot of issues are there, but there is no D2C brand that I will say is directly talking to them. So today on D2C Stories, we have with us to speak is Mayank, founder of Elemen, a first of its kind personal care brand built specifically for teenage boys. So they are completely research-backed, bootstrapped, and culturally aligned to gaming, animation, not macho stereotypes. So let's understand not just the brand, but the man behind him. Hello, Mayank. How are you?
Hey, hi Vineet. Hi, all well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting. I think great opportunity to catch up with you again.
Sure. So we have been like working for more than 2 years now, I guess, and it's
correct.
always lovely connecting you. It's always like जब भी हम लोग whenever we speak, there's a lot of terms, a lot of things we learn from each other, I guess. But I learn a lot of things.
It's
So
same here.
yeah.
I don't know if I have taught you anything, but yeah, I have learned a lot from you.
No, definitely, there were a lot. Because right now also we are working on a couple of projects, and the way you carry it, I sincerely love it. And there's a lot to learn. Even I tell my team ki see how Mayank is handling. You need to do that kind of planning and preparation, and you have to carry yourself like that. So there's a lot to learn from you for sure.
Thank you for kind words, Vineet.
So we know each other, but as this is a long conversation, we would like to know more about you. So I would like to start like you mentioned that you travel Chandigarh a lot. You are in Gurgaon right now. So I would like to know where you born and brought up. And we wanted to know more about your childhood.
So I am, typical middle class guy with parents in service. And fortunately for me, both my parents are working in Chandigarh. So, I am a Chandigarh born and brought up guy. In fact, my mother is one of the few people who say that they are originally from Chandigarh because my mom was also born in Chandigarh once Chandigarh was established. Yeah, so true blue Chandigarh boy. I think one of the reasons why I am in Gurgaon and not in Bangalore is also because of that, because of the proximity to home. And, the flexibility to travel frequently up and down. So I was there for my schooling and also for my MBA with Punjab University UPS. Just 4 years in between, I went to Manipal for my engineering. And I think that was when I got a lot of exposure to other cultures, because Chandigarh, as when it was set up, there is a lot of regional influence of the surrounding states, because those were the people that originally came and got inhabited in that area. So it was a good exposure. Childhood was good. Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a great childhood. I have one younger brother, and that's about it. Small family. We lived with our grandparents. So all the value systems that grandparents, instill in their kids, I hope I still have them. So yeah, that's about it. Went to the same school for all till from KG till 10th. Then went to DAV college for 11th, 12th, post that engineering in Manipal, and then back to MBA. After that, I moved to NCR. So basically, I got placed with the Bharti Airtel Young Leader program. And I was one of the fortunate ones to get an option that what kind of a profile / location would I want. I said, profile koi bhi de do, give me location close to home. So I was hoping that they would give me Chandigarh, but they gave me Delhi. So yeah, so that's how my journey in NCR started. 2009 and now it's 2026, so domicile Gurgaon now. And I've been in Gurgaon throughout. Love this place, yeah. Good good people, good culture. I think a lot of like-minded people you're able to find.
Chandigarh versus Gurgaon. Like, what are things you miss in Chandigarh you used to love? And what are three things you enjoy being in Gurgaon?
I think Chandigarh, the lifestyle is very easy, as in people don't take things so seriously, which has its own charm. So there is a laid back attitude wherein you get to enjoy the nuances of life. There is not a lot of rush or hustle bustle. Obviously, the roads are great, so people are fanatic car lovers or motor lovers. Gurgaon also has its share of motor lovers and car lovers, and but there is always a sense of rush in Gurgaon, I think, which comes with all metros,
Yeah,
because there are a lot of people and everybody's running to earn. So yeah, so from that perspective, I get the best of both worlds. So when I want to relax, I go to Chandigarh. When I want to be in the thick of things, I stay in Gurgaon. So yeah, I love both the cities. I don't think that there is weakness in any, apart from I would love if Gurgaon roads were a little better. That would be very, very helpful.
sure, sure. Yeah. So I live in Midnapur, so chill things and like people not in hurry, people like taking their time for everything. So I see that all the time. But
Yeah,
yeah, as
yeah,
you said, they are good and bad for like dono, like there is good and bad to both for that. So yeah,
correct.
so we have to. So like Chandigarh, what role did Chandigarh play in making the entrepreneur in Mayank today it is? Is there
So
anything or any incident you can recall?
So basically, there are not a lot of corporates in Chandigarh. And, most of my friends who were there with me in school have either moved out for corporate jobs like me or are doing their own business in Chandigarh. So, you had the option of, if you were, say, for example, a lawyer because of the Chandigarh, Punjab and Haryana High Court being in
Yeah.
Chandigarh, or if you get into a government service or a bank service, then you get to stay in Chandigarh, or you need to have your own business. And over a period of time, after say about 8, 9, 10 years of service, I realized that there is no one set path wherein you can say, okay, this is better or this is better or this is better, and it is about your priority. And at certain point of times, there was always a reflection that I am staying away from home, I am working for XYZ and earning this much amount of money. And there are people who are doing their own business, probably not at that scale, but they are still, having a more happier lifestyle. So that was always there. But that was not the objective with which I created the business. I think money was never a first objective for me to get into this business. It was always that I wanted to do something which was much more meaningful than I was doing earlier. And yeah, so hence my entrepreneurial journey started. I think people are a lot more independent when they're in people from Chandigarh. And like I was saying, majority of my classmates all have their own businesses in Chandigarh, who are still in Chandigarh. So yeah, that's about it. I think that's where I was not very, very afraid of jumping into and starting my own thing, because I'd seen so many people doing it. So yeah.
Now, coming back to after studies, you joined, as you said, you joined Airtel as a young leader. So, what was your life before Element? Like, how was it? Where all you been, and what were your key learnings over the time as a like when we were in corporate life? So, can you share a little about that?
So I was with Airtel for almost 5 years, and during that time, I moved to their all three lines of businesses I worked for. So I started off with their ILL ILP lease line business, which is the broadband connectivity business that they have. Now I think they've merged it with their with their mobility business. But yeah, I started with that. Then I was fortunate enough to be part of the DTH team when DTH was starting up. And then I also worked with mobility, specifically prepaid customers, which is the biggest chunk of customers that Airtel has. So I was very happy, very fulfilling roles I had. I love the company till date. If you reach out to me and say, "Okay, Airtel mein ye dikkat aa rahi hai," so I try my best to figure out people who can help out, because that's the kind of attachment that you have with your first company where you spend so much time. But at that point of time, I was, kind of got influenced by a lot of people of my batch who were getting into dot coms, and that dot com rush was on. And because of that, I somehow felt that, am I losing out? Am I not, by not being part of this dot com thing? What should I do? How should I get into this internet business? Because it was, telecom is very, very different from how online a business operates. So I tried reaching out to a lot of founders who were all based out of Delhi, because I didn't want to leave Delhi. Thankfully, I got some interest from company called Appelect. They ran a brand called meritnation.com, which was an edtech company. Got acquired by Akash EduTech later. They were funded by Naukri.com at that point of time. They were in Okla, and for the next 4 years, then I was working with them. That's how I got into online and trying to understand how a product for a consumer, which is a student or a child, needs to be made, because the purchase decision is of the parent, which is the mother or the father, because they are the one shelling out the money for their child's future. But at the end of the day, if the child is not convinced of the product will never be used. Yeah. So the thing becomes a lot more tougher, because you have to appeal to the student also, and you have to appeal to the parent also, because the consumer and the purchase decision maker are two different people in the case of a product being sold to kids or children or teenagers, or that age group, the school going age group. I think that is what I am trying to do again, but instead of having an online product, I'm trying to give I'm trying to give a couple of physical products out there. Yeah, but I think the genesis or the journey remains very, very similar. After Merit Nation, I had spent a little bit time with Samsung. I was selling mobile phones for them online, and then I was with a beauty personal care company called Esme. They have a couple of brands. They have a cosmetics, hardcore female cosmetics brand, and they have a skincare brand called Nature's Essence. So yeah, so I was with them, and then Element happened,
Yeah.
and this is where we are.
Okay, so lovely, like a lot of variation there. Like you start from telecom, then to online education, tech, then you went to again mobiles, electronics, and again back to like startup or
See,
something
if you
like. So
look at it from a perspective of industries, there are 5 different industries. So all job changes are in different industries.
yeah,
But the core of all of, except for starting part, which was Airtel, core for everything was online sales. So understand the consumer, how the consumer behaves online when the consumer is purchasing online, and how do you give the the product to the consumer to make him, so that the consumer makes the right decision online. Now, EdTech also was online sales, because they're completely online product. Samsung also, I was selling mobile phones online. And in Esme also, my responsibility and role was e-commerce business for Esme.
okay.
So yeah, so that's been the common thread. And I think that is where I think most of the D2C Stories podcast will also feature, because I think your core is also online business.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
so that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years, online business in different categories, different industries. And I've tried to bring that wholesome experience down into me launching this brand.
That's lovely. Mayank, tell me, so like from beginning, like from childhood, then studies, then in your corporates, do you always know that sometime you will start of your own, or is it some incident or some event where you realize now I wanted to do something of mine? So how Element came to life?
See, I always wanted to do something on my own, but the challenge was that I came from a very, very middle class background. So there was always this fear कि salary नहीं आएगी तो घर कैसे चलेगा वाला fear. ठीक है, so to start anything on your own, you need to have a certain amount of corpus. At least I thought so, because I was not that risk taker in life. I think that is one of the value system that was imbibed to me by my grandfather, who was in government service, and then my father and my mother again, who's a teacher. So from that perspective, I think that was the value system. So from that perspective, I think I needed to myself make sure that I am secure before venturing out and doing something. Secondly, some of the industries that I worked for demanded huge amount of investments. Like, for example, if you want to start a telecom company today, it would require a huge amount of investment. If you want to sell mobile phones or launch a new mobile phone or an electronics company, it would require a huge amount of investment. So when I was working with Esme, I realized that, not even the biggest of the biggest players in this category online have a double digit market share. So my right of winning by starting a business is as good as anyone's right of winning if I have the right product and the right consumer, specifically online. So, so I did some back of the envelope calculation, and I realized that I have enough corpus to do this experiment for a bit. And that's when, the fuel kind of caught fire, and I really jumped on my own to kind of do this business, because I felt that I had some amount of prior requisite in terms of knowledge and understanding to do this business. Plus, the amount of money that was required to launch a brand in this category was not that much. And obviously, I really liked the category. So I thought that why not try it out?
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. We will talk more about how to start this, what kind of funding. Like if someone is trying to start their own brand into this segment or beauty segment, so how that goes. But before we get into that, I would like to know why Element. So what is your why to do all those things? So can you tell more on that?
So there is a, emotional angle to it, and there is a business angle to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me first start off with the business angle.
I am much more keen for your emotional angle, but yeah, let's start with the business.
The business angle was very, very simple. First point was, does not require a lot of investment, because that's how most of the brands operate in this space. Specifically online, the biggest of the biggest players don't have a double digit market share. So you have a right to win. Secondly, when we specifically talk about boys, there is no competition at all. It's a complete white space. So while, like you were saying in your introduction, when you talk about the female BPC category or the personal care category or the skincare category, brands starting from the age of about 11, 12 till the about age of about 60, 65, 70,
Right.
selling all different kind of products in all different type of price points. You
Sure.
have mass, prestige, premium, luxury products in almost all categories. But when you talk about men's, for some reason, every male brand right now in the country is only and only targeting men above the age of 24, 25. They feel that now that they have money, they are, since they are, doing into a job and getting salaries or whatever, now is the time that they are ready to spend on their own personal hygiene, personal care. I don't know for what reason, because it's not that kids today are not wearing 10,000 or 3,000 rupees t-shirts, but somehow there is no skincare, personal care brand made for boys. Yeah. So from that perspective also, I felt that it was a complete white space. So while there was a bit of category creation, which I'm now realizing, but from a competition perspective, it was a complete white space, and I thought I'll get lesser CPCs when I run ads. So yeah, so that was the business sense of
This
it.
idea.
So I understood the product. I knew that there was a need, and I saw that it was a complete white space. So I thought that this was the right category to jump into. And since it was a nascent category, not a very big category, I thought I could also, and I still think I can also make a mark, make a dent without raising funds outside from the capital that I have. So yeah, so that was also one of the objectives, because if I have to launch a mainstream female cosmetics or skincare brand today, the amount of investment that I would need is much, much higher, because the amount of competition that it has is humongous, is hyper competitive right now. So yeah, so I think that was there. There's also, I think, a fair bit of tailwind behind this entire teenage space. So I think that is also helping. The CAGR is nice. Somehow it was overlooked by a lot of bigger companies, because probably they felt that female is a bigger chunk and that is where they should invest money. So good for me in that sense. But yeah, so that's how Element started. I think personally why it was there is because I did not have any brand to look forward to when I was growing up in that age group.
Yeah.
When I started to get acne, the only solution my mother had was ke ye Safi pillow. So Safi is a Hamdard product,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Safi.
which purifies your blood
Right.
so
Right.
that your acne gets cleared. I still don't understand how that works. I would have drank some 10, 12 bottles, but the acne remained. I
But it
don't
has
know,
done
didn't
well
work
so
for
far.
me.
What the
No,
product
no,
has.
I'm sure it works,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
somehow it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had a lot of acne, and dermat was never an option for us. I don't think, because everybody used to say, "Ah, chali jayegi jaise hi bade ho jaoge." But the thing is, but people don't understand the psychological aspects of such issues in that age. You have acne on your face, and a person like me who also got specs in 8th class, you become that specky nerdy person who has a lot of pimples on his face. So for at least in my mind, I was written off from a lot of things because of that. And that started to have a very, very negative impact on me, on my personality,
It
the
kills
way I was
the.
thinking.
It badly affect the confidence level also.
Correct. Correct. In fact, so much that, I started to, before this acne outburst of puberty, I used to be very, very active in debates and declamations and things like that. But, somehow 8th class was a double whammy for me. I got spectacles also, and then I got this hit of puberty with acne and all those things. And suddenly I felt that I couldn't do competitions like extempore or turncoats and things like that, because I was very, very scared of what was happening. I started to stutter. So when I look at it now, I feel very funny, because, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you speak well, you speak well. But yeah, but it had that impact. And I did try clean and clear face wash for some time. But then again, the whole thing didn't really pan out for me. And I think that got even more aggravated with the kind of physical activity I had. Initially, I used to play football, then I was also playing lawn tennis, and then I was representing my school in swimming. So yeah, so I think the amount of physical activity I had kind of did not work in my favor for acne reduction and things like that. I still have a little bit of acne pits, the marks that acne leaves, because you end up popping your pimples. Yeah, so that was the journey, and I really wanted to see if I could do something for this age group, because at the end of the day, the realistic thing is that the unisex products in the market are also made for females, even if they're not making it or targeting it to females in their marketing campaigns. And female skin is very, very different. The penetration levels are very, very different. The skin barriers are very, very different for a female skin and a male skin. So if you make a product for a female skin, the efficacy that it is going to have on a male skin with that kind of a physical activity level is going to be very, very different. So if the product acts on a female, say in 10 days, it might take a month or more than a month for it to act on a male skin. So why not make products specifically for the male skin?
Sure.
So that's how the thought kind of emerged. And, with my experience of Meridnation, I felt that if the product is hard hitting and good, the consumers like it, there will be a set of customers who would, even without a lot of branding and a lot of hoo-halla around who is bringing the brand out, they'll be takers for it, because it will genuinely solve a purpose. So that's how, that was the emotional angle to what Element was.
Sure. Makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. So tell me, Mike, what does Element, the name brand, came from?
So I wanted the name to clearly specify that it is a male brand, and hence the men in Element. But I also wanted to tell them that it is for boys and not for men, because the men's skin is rough. The products that they would need are very, very different. Their problem statements are very, very different. So hence I wanted a prefix before men, and that is how Element emerged.
Oh, wow.
It also kind of gave you that sense that it is going back to your basics. It is going very, very elemental. Yeah, but the major reason why it was done was I wanted a prefix before men, because it is for the age group just before they become men, and that is
Sure.
boys. So
Wow.
hence Element.
Very nice. Very nice. So you said all the things that there is no brand which is not doing into this category.
Correct.
So this also becomes something new you are doing. So
Correct.
what kind of R&D research has gone into this, like creating this product? Because we know that most of the beauty products, the manufacturing line is not run by the brands. But when you create something new, like you do research, you understand the composition and you wanted to make it, how this process works. So first of all, like what kind of R&D has gone into, what is your learning, and that is how the manufacturing process went into this.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me, again come back to my Esme days, where I was managing a couple of B2C brands, one cosmetics brand and one skincare brand. Thankfully for me, the exposure was good because the company owned all of its four factories. So I was able to talk to one of my best friend in the company was the NPD marketing head and the R&D head. And we also had launched a completely new line for female products, which was an online exclusive range which only me and my team were selling online. Yeah, and a lot of research had gone into figuring out what ingredients, what formulations, how do you do testing, things like that. I think that experience helped me a lot, because while for them everything was in house, when I was talking to a lot of manufacturers and R&D companies, that understanding, asking the right set of questions, that helped me a lot.
Sure.
And we then tried to figure out that how do we give a solution which is a long-term solution and not a quick fix solution for the problems that people are having. Like, for example, since we were talking about acne, I will pick up acne first. We have two products for acne. One is the acne cream and the other is an anti-acne face wash. The acne cream is not a spot fix. It is not कि आपके pimple निकल आया है, you've got a pimple, then you put it on the pimple and the pimple dies away. You have acne patches for that to cover up the pimples and things like that. But how do we figure out that the amount of oil that is being secreted by the skin is regulated? So I wanted to do that, which is a more long-termish approach, but it is a better approach. And ingredients like salicylic acid does not help because that's a burning solve, no? That's a quick fix solve. So I went to R&D companies, figured out what they were doing, and then there is this company called Sylab, which is a French company. So they did some research on a couple of ingredients. One was sebositine and one was acnesium, and you can search these ingredients and you'll get all branded literature by Sylab on it. And they've done researches and they have studies. Plus the ingredients were, the ingredients that were used to make both of these chemicals were natural. So we worked on that and we tried to figure out and work with more formulations around that. And that is how we got the formulations for our acne cream and our anti-acne face wash. So our anti-acne face wash contains sebositine. Our acne cream contains acnesium. Both of these are trademarked, branded ingredients by Sylab. They gave me the formulation. They're also supplying the ingredients. So we are importing the ingredients from them and then making the formulation. That is how, similarly for our sunscreen, the formulation is by BASF, which is a German company. So we wanted to figure out how do we give a sunscreen out which has good chemicals, does not have oxybenzone, also is water resistant, because the activity level of my consumer is going to be very, very high. If they're playing a 90-minute football match, they don't have to reapply sunscreen in between the match. How do we do that? So we worked on that. We also wanted it to be acne friendly, so that it does not flare up acne if you have acne. So you wanted it to be water resistant. You wanted it to have good ingredients, not ingredients like oxybenzone, which is harmful specifically in hard sunlight, and you wanted it to be water resistant. We thought, let's go one step ahead. If you have a little bit of acne pits, it will also cover your acne pits. So we worked together and we figured out what would be the best formulation for that. And when I saw the formulation that BASF had made, I was completely floored. So I thought, yes, I will launch this formulation. Now coming to the manufacturing aspect of it. If you see a lot of brands right now in the market specifically making products for females, they have made it as a business wherein they are just repackaging whatever is already there, doing a little bit of changes here and there. And in these cases, they go to the manufacturer and they ask for a turnkey solution. That, hey, we want to launch a brand. This is what we want to do. This is the ingredient that we want to focus. Please give us a turnkey solution where you do everything, right? From what packaging, what branding, how the branding printing needs to be done, where the containers are being sourced from, where the ingredients are being sourced from, everything. So when this turnkey is done, then the amount of research required is very, very less, because you're just doing a little bit of tweaks on existing formulations.
Right.
But in our case, we went to R&D companies, we got formulations from them, and then we asked our manufacturer to make these products as per those formulations. So we made sure that the ingredients are being procured from the right vendors and being supplied to our manufacturer. So that is how we are controlling this entire value chain.
Sure. So you mentioned a couple of things like BASF Germany. So why it is so important? And what are the other alternatives we have?
Correct.
Other than BASF Germany, and how it is different from those alternatives?
Okay. So if you are a big chemicals company like BASF, you have a very big budget for R&D.
Okay.
And you will use all the right methodologies to correct and bring out the right set of products in the market. And companies like these work 20 years, 10 years into the future. They see how the industry is trending and they try to bring in products now so that they can be sold to FMCG giants later, when the formulation is being used by them, or the ingredients are being used by them, or the chemicals are being used. Because at the end of the day, it is a chemical company. It has to sell its ingredients. To make sure that their ingredients are selling, they do that research. Now, when I say BASF Germany, I, at the back of the mind, know that this is a conglomerate. They work on chemicals. They would have done all rigorous testing required for the problem statement that they're trying to bring in or trying to solve. And hence, the credibility becomes very, very important as to where you're getting the R&D done from, or who is your ingredient supplier, or what research that they have done. Because then, like they say, I stand on the shoulder of giants. Because of the research done by them, I am able to claim a lot of things in the market when I am selling those products.
Sure.
And I don't need to double check everything that they're doing. Yeah. So that's the significance. Now, what happens is you have a list of problems in your mind. Yeah. It should not have low quality UV blockers. And when I say low quality, I did not mean in terms of the amount of filtration it is doing, but in terms of its chemical stability. because India is a land of a lot of temperature fluctuations.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're keeping the same sunscreen when you're traveling to Leh Ladakh in a minus 10 degrees Celsius, and then you're coming back to Coimbatore in a 40 to 43 degrees Celsius, there are a lot of sunscreen which will break down. You will yourself see, if you leave a tube of a mass sunscreen in your car, the formulation, the texture, everything is changing. Yeah, because a lot of chemicals break down. The chemicals that are being used for filtration in that sunscreen for UV filter should be stable enough against extreme temperature variations. That was the first thing. Because my boys, the ones that I want to use the Element sunscreen, are going to be out in the sun when they're playing a game, when they're playing football, when they're playing cricket, or when they're doing swimming. So at that point of time, I don't want that the chemicals break down and penetrate deeper into the skin, causing more harm than goodness. Specifically because at that point of time, at that age group, there is a high probability that the amount of sebum or oil that the skin is producing also very, very high. So it can flare up a lot of different things. And hence it was very, very important. So I wanted this. This was the first goal. The second goal was that I wanted it to be resistant, water resistant, sweat resistant. And I wanted it to be at least resistant for 80-90 minutes so that the entire football match is done.
Sure.
Yeah. So from that perspective, that was the second requirement. Then the third requirement was again cosmetic, because you're doing A, you're doing B, and if you don't feel good when you put it, or if it doesn't enhance your, natural look in a manner, then what fun is it? So for sunscreen, what we also did was we made sure that it works like a primer for females. So
Okay.
it covers up your pores like a primer does. But if I sell a primer to boys, it will never work. No, they will never buy a primer for makeup. So what I did was I brought in that functionality also in the sunscreen, so that it also works for as a primer and covers up basic imperfections on the skin. So yeah, so tick, tick, tick. This is the formulation that works. Yeah, let's go ahead and work with this formulation. That is how. So you have a list of problem statements, you try to solve that problem statement. A lot of these things come from a lot of discussions that I had with kids of this age. Like for example, one of the product that we have is the dual rush product. So a dual rush product is the first of its kind dual dispensing bottle. So this is the bottle. It dispenses from this side also. It dispenses from this side also.
Wow.
Now this is our own mold. Nobody has this in India.
Okay.
And why this was made is because people told me that, when we go to the gym, we don't want to carry too many stuff. And the products that are available in the gym might not be the best products for me, specifically because they will contain sulfates. So we'll come to hair loss and sulfates and all of this. But yeah, so what we did was we packed both the products together. So you use the shampoo, which also has conditioner in it from one side, and you use the body wash from the other side. So in a manner, you're, packaging 3 products in one. Yeah. So this is a boy's need. So we'll go ahead and make it. So that's how a lot of thought has gone into the packaging, the way it is looking, the way it is being dispensed, and the way it is being made specifically for this age group.
Yeah. Very interesting way of putting things up. Yeah. I haven't seen this kind of packaging for sure. And it does make sense. Do you have smaller packages for this, or
we will. What we need to understand is, since we're bootstrapped, no, we have to figure out our hero SKUs.
Right.
And then work around that. But we will definitely, that's part of plan where we have smaller packs around it. We have refill packs around it. So we're trying to work on all of that. Yeah, but our packaging, we had to make sure that the packaging was, cool. Boys liked this packaging because, a lot of times what happens is, as parents, we buy things for our kids or, children because they're the best products in the market. But if the packaging is not attractive enough or cool enough or good looking enough, the products just keep on lying on the shelf and the products are never used. So hence we have these 5 characters on each of our products. We've given it that gaming anime look in all of our products. There are bright colors that pop out because we wanted the consumer, the boys, to actually like what they're using, and not from a sensorial perspective of when they're actually using the product, but also when the touch and feel of the product package itself. Because coming back from my Merit Nation days, we have to make sure that the experience of the consumer and the experience of the purchase decision maker is brilliant, is the best for both of them. And hence the research that has gone into the products, the efficacies, the reports, the branded ingredients, they all talk to the parents because they are the decision maker. And the packaging, the colors, even the logo not being written horizontally but vertically, all of these things stand out and they appeal to the boys, and that makes them use the product again and again. It's not just another product that their mother has bought and they've kept it somewhere. And this is something that mothers themselves have told me, that in fact a couple of fathers also, that we bought this product and the kids were very happy, or the boys were very very happy, that now there is a product for me, and they've kept that product on the shelf in the toilet because they feel that they are also being looked at. They
Sure.
also have some products and they're using that product again and again just because of the packaging.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Like, instead of getting into a like avoid macho branding, you have selected something like anime and all those things. So can you tell a little more about it? How the process, what is the process of this branding? Can you tell a little more about that?
Okay. So basically, when we were talking to kids of this age group for which we were making products, we realized, and we did a lot of online focus interviews for this. We realized that the imagery that a lot of male brands, I'm sure you'll get a lot of brands in your head when I say male brands, all of them try to portray this macho man cowboy imagery.
Yep.
Of a big bearded,
Yeah.
heavy muscular guy.
Large hat, everything.
Yeah, riding a big motorcycle or driving a gruff open jeep and things
Even
like
a
that.
horse, even a horse in a lot
Even
of
a
brands.
horse, yeah. And it's been like that since I was a kid. You would have those Old Spice ads, wherein there is a brown horse and the guy is on top of
Yeah,
it and
yeah,
things
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Huh?
But a lot of boys, specifically late Gen Zs and early Gen Alphas, don't relate to that imagery at all. They are much more in tune with their emotions. They don't understand that why it is being emphasized so much, and why is it that imagery being pushed on them when they are nothing like that. I'm sure there are people who do adhere to that imagery as well, but that is not the only imagery that they relate. They have their heroes in animes like Naruto, wherein with grit and resilience you become a hero, and not because you just had muscles you become a hero. You develop those muscles over a period of time. You work on yourself, you take whatever the world is giving to you, they keep on assimilating and working around it. That's the hero story. And a lot of boys this age are taking their life lessons from anime.
Yeah.
Are taking their life lessons from gaming. There are umpteen number of reels right now as to why Gen Zs are different, how Gen Zs are figuring out that heroes. And it is mostly to do with the kind of media that they watch. And if the media that they're watching is anime, those are going to be the heroes that they are wanting to relate to. So who am I to judge and say, nahi, you need a John Dutton in your life and you need a cowboy to be your hero? Yeah, it is what it is.
No, true, true. So, like, my elder one is approx 11, and yeah, his current heroes are those like I haven't heard of, like some gamer कि वो उसका hero है. So he knows everything about him. So he is following
Absolutely.
that kind of people जिसके बारे में हम लोग कुछ भी नहीं जानते. We
कुछ
don't
भी
know
नहीं
even a
जानते.
thing about them.
Correct.
And we are trying to sell those people with the knowledge we have. So that is definitely, we need a very different kind of branding and this. And
Correct.
I'm sure it is working for you, I guess.
In fact, what we've done is, instead of emphasizing on Elemen as a brand, we are emphasizing on Element Squad. So if you say, for example, go to Amazon today and look at my seller name, it does not say Element Skincare or Element Cosmetics or any Element. It says Element Squad. The Instagram handle of my page is also Element Squad. And what is this squad? Squad is this group of 5 friends that you see at the background in my office. These are the guys who are on the pack for every product. Now we have Leo, who is into fitness, who is into football. We have Ari, who is into art, who is into music. We have Kenny, who is into gaming. We have Mikey, who is into debate, declamations, becoming the future prime minister of the country, that kind of a thing. And we have Oro, who's into anime. So these are a group of friends, and they're a group of friends because, like all boys, they are friends because they live in a similar ecosystem, or they go
True.
to the same school, or they go to the same coaching center, and they become friends. But that does not mean all of them is going to have the absolutely same hobby. So with
Sure.
that concept, we've made this Element Squad. And the objective of this Element Squad is that, hey, you are part of Element Squad. You are friends with these 5 groups. In these 5 personalities, you either see yourself that, hey, I am also an animal lover, or is also an animal lover. He is like me. He's a friend. Or you see one of your friends who is a big gamer, and you see, Kenny is just like my friend because he also keeps on playing video games all day. Kenny also plays video game all day. So there is a relatability that comes. And the whole concept of Elements products is that friends are recommending the products to friends. It is not a dermat that is telling you that this is the right ingredient for you. Please buy this. You will not feel underconfident. You will not get rashes, whatever, XYZ. Or it is not your fatherly figure or motherly figure telling you what to do. It's your group of friends. They've tried the products, they like the products, and they're recommending the product to you. Like, decisions are usually made. भाई कौन
Sure.
सा फोन लेना है? अरे यार मैं ये XYZ फोन ले रहा हूँ, बहुत बढ़िया चल रहा है. ये फोन लेगा, कम से कम इतनी GB रैम लेना, नहीं तो मत लेना.
Right.
That kind of decision. That is what Element Squad is, being done. And my major emphasis is that Element Squad and these characters should become way bigger than the products and Element as a brand. That's the end objective that I have in my mind.
Sure. Definitely. So you created all this element
Yeah, these were
for
all
your brand.
created by us. Yeah.
That's
So
lovely. Lot of work.
thankfully, I was able to get in touch with some wonderful creative people. The agency that I worked was amazing in terms of branding. They brought these characters out to life. Crescent is the name of the agency.
Wow. So Mayank, you mentioned something called hero products. Have you identified your hero products? Can you talk a little more about that?
Actually, what I thought was the hero product and what is actually coming out from customer feedback are very, very different things. So I will tell you what the hero product is according to the customers right now. I think the customers are absolutely gaga about the sunscreen.
Wow.
It's a formulation that they've never used. They've never tried. As soon as they put it on their hand or their face, they are bewildered and surprised that what is this, because it's not only a sunscreen, it's a moisturizer, and it's a butter formulation, but it is not your general run of the mill winter butter. It's a very, very light butter, melts directly and gives you moisturization also and protects you from UV rays as well, plus water resistance, so you can put it has zinc oxide but leaves no white cast, things like that. So that's an absolute cracker of a product, selling the biggest numbers right now, followed by our shampoo plus conditioner. Now you will ask, why shampoo plus conditioner? I think shampoo plus conditioner for the only reasons that boys don't have the patience कि वो shampoo करें, फिर उसके बाद conditioner लगाएं और 4 मिनट 5 मिनट छोड़ें कि अब बाल मेरे condition होंगे.
Sure.
Most of the boys usually now, unlike my time where everybody was having that crew cut, want to have longer hair, and they want their hair to be flowy, they want their hair to be shiny, but they don't have the patience of putting a conditioner and stopping or waiting for the conditioner to work. So hence we created this product which has the shampoo as well as conditioner together.
Yeah.
Works very, very fast, and it's a sulfate free formulation, because what is the most damaging thing at this age group, specifically if you're genetically prone to hair fall, is that you use shampoos or hair products which contain sulfates, because they will fasten the hair fall for you, and once the follicles are gone, then you can't do anything.
Okay. Yeah.
And we also wanted to make sure that it was safe, it was mild, but it worked. And even if you color your hair in that age group, if you're going for dyeing your hair or getting streaks or things like that, it should not impact that or affect that negatively. So that's how this formulation was made. So these are the 2 products which are selling the highest number. Then the third product that we were selling a lot is the acne cream. I think it's again, because it's not a quick fix solution, it works on your sebum regulation, it becomes a great product. I had actually thought that the face washes will do the most number of sales because they're the least priced products in my repertoire, but fortunately for me, people are liking these 3 products the most.
Sure. And so where can I purchase Element product?
You can purchase Element products from the website element.co.in. You can purchase it from Amazon, Flipkart. You can also purchase it from Tata 1mg. So these are the platforms that we are currently live with. We are also live with Pop Shop, which is the Pop UPI app, because I think the TG makes a lot of sense. We've got a very good response from quick commerce fashion platforms.
Okay.
For example, we experimented with a platform called StyleZen. It's a 60-minute delivery platform for fast fashion in Delhi NCR.
Okay.
And they launched their skincare category with our products.
Okay.
And since they are only and only selling to the male audience, StyleZen, it's really working very, very well because, the TG is in a complete sync. So I'm hoping that, we'll tie up with more quick delivery fashion apps to sell our products.
Sure. And why Tata 1mg?
Tata 1mg is because of our acne products.
Okay.
Because I think acne as a problem is something where the parent also makes the decision of buying a product, and if you are in a habit of buying it from a pharmacy first platform where you're already buying a lot of things for nutrition, for your health, for the health of your parents, you end up discovering our product, specifically the acne product for your boys as well. And hence platforms like Tata 1mg or Clinically are focus platforms for us.
Okay. That makes sense. Coming to, you mentioned quick commerce, and now everything is moving to quick commerce. And we know people are becoming more and more impatient. They wanted everything in under 10 minutes.
Correct.
Now, 10 minutes, 2 is a max threshold where people can think of. And you're dealing with a group of people like Gen Z who we assume are more impatient than even our generation a lot. So what is your plan for quick commerce? How do you see quick commerce as a overall for your industry? Or do you think this has to go? What do you think about it?
See, quick commerce is the future. There is no doubt about it. If the consumer behavior is that they will purchase something which is available within 10 minutes versus something that they used to purchase but is now being delivered 2 days later, they will go ahead and buy that 10 rupees product, even if it's a little expensive on that platform. That's the behavior that consumers are showing because everything is instant. Everybody's in a rush. That's absolutely there. But from a brand's perspective, it makes only sense to the brands to keep on investing in quick commerce platforms if it eventually makes them money and not lose them money. Because at the end of the day, it's not only a discovery platform, it is also a repeat purchase platform. That is how the behavior is evolving. So if you're not making money on the platform, it becomes a very, very difficult decision for you to continue quick commerce. Apart from that, in parallel to that, what also needs to be seen, and the reason why I am not there right now on these quick commerce platform, is that if you look at data, about 80-85% of the sale happens for the Tom 3 brands. And this is rudimentarily basis the subcategories that I have studied, but I am assuming that it also holds true for a lot of different categories like staples and groceries and FMCG on quick commerce, that it will either be the white labeled pushed product by the platform, or it will be the Tom 3-4 brands of that subcategory which will be selling the maximum 80-85% of the category share, will be having the category share. Since Elemen is a bootstrap brand, till the time I don't have that kind of mind share, and people are specifically searching for Elemen cream or Elemen sunscreen or Elemen face wash, I don't think I need to be on this quick commerce platforms, because the journey will take a little more time. But quick commerce right now is not a discovery platform. You know what you want to buy and you search for that. While you're searching for that, you see ads, and that may influence your decision to buy another product, basis availability, basis price point, things like that. But it is not a brand discovery platform as of now. So the brand needs to be built when there are searches and decent searches happening for organically for the brand. That is when the quick commerce journey should start. So I think for a lot of D2C players, I would suggest whatever category they are into, please figure out the data points for these quick commerce platforms. There are good tools in the market right now which provide great data. See what are the top 3-4 brands that are selling on that platform. What is the total category size for these 3-4 brands put together? What percentage of the total category size are they selling? And then take a conscious call that do you want to outprice these 4 brands by doing a lot of ads and promotions and selling your products? Or do you first want to develop that organic searches coming on that platform and then list your brand? So it's a catch-22 situation, but the brand needs to figure out their priorities basis the amount of corpus that they have for marketing with them. I hope I was able to make some sense.
Sure. Yeah. And you also mentioned that you are bootstrap, which come to be like, which I wanted to ask, like, what are the pros and cons you see as a bootstrap? That is number one. And number
Hmm.
two is how soon you are looking for funding to grow your brand.
So I'll tell you what, when I started thinking about launching a boys personal care, skincare, cosmetics brand, and I talked to a lot of people around it, everybody talked to me about the same thing. TAM is very, very small. The category needs to be created. Boys don't buy, their behavior is very different. Why don't you try making products for girls? Your experiences in making products for girls. I don't think you should experiment with boys at all. So things like TAM becomes very, very important for investors. And rightly so, it is their money, it is not their conviction of a founder that they're putting behind the brand. So with all respect to them, they're absolutely right in the way that they are approaching this entire thing. They need to see a big chunk of pie, and then because the probability of the success of the brand becomes very, very high. But if I would have picked up money on paper, or even right now in my journey, with a couple of roadblocks, there would be a lot of pressure on me. And I'm not saying investors would be putting that pressure, but there would be pressure to me because I've taken outside money to
Sure.
justify their money to them. Yeah. And it might force me to launch female products,
Okay.
get a couple of girlfriends to these five characters and launch female products, or launch male products in the age group of 24 and above,
Sure.
to give them return on the money that they have invested. And then I don't remain true to the objective that I have, to figuring out that if there is a market in this category, and can I be the one being the first brand that they think of when they're wanting to buy a product. Because then the focus gets haywire. If I meet the right investor with the same kind of mindset that I have, I think that's the right point for me to pick up that money. Because if at the first shocker, if I need to launch say 20 more products in 10 different categories or for two different kind of audiences, I think that's not the right approach for me right now. And hence the reason I have not picked up outside money. The thing is that I want to make sure that the PMF is correct and I'm able to show repeat purchases happening for the brand by the same set of consumers. Because then the problem statement of TAM being not big enough, or repeat not coming in, or the category being non-existent, these matters will get subsided. And that is when, I should ideally be taking outside money.
Sure. So right now you said you are selling on your D2C website
Correct.
and you're selling on marketplaces.
Correct.
Are you also planning to be available on offline stores?
I have absolutely no idea of offline stores. I've never done offline business.
Sure,
So I am
sure,
hoping that over a period of time, as the brand matures, as the company matures, there will be intelligent people who will come in and help me out, expanding into offline. But that's not part of any future plan as of now, because of the simple reason that I don't know anything about offline at all.
sure, sure. Now, coming to D2C business by itself, like many founder talk about scaling to 100 crores and all, and growth at all cost. So now scenarios has changed a little, like since last 1 year, 2 years, people are looking for profitability. So when you see your unit economics, so what is the hardest lever to pull, lowering the CAC or increasing the AOV?
I think lowering the CAC. I think because eventually, if there is no repeat purchase that is happening, it's a very, very difficult business to be in,
Sure.
specifically online, because the CAC cost, the amount of money that you're spending to show your ad to the consumer, and the fatigue that the consumer is getting by seeing a lot of ads, may not be only for your brands, but any related brand, and the amount of white noise that ads are now creating for consumers and the cognitive dissonance that is happening. I think
Mm.
it becomes very, very important that the strategy that earlier the brands had, that, hey, India is this bigger population and you have these 500 million consumers that are internet users, and 400 or 300 million of them are transacting consumers. So every niche that you pick up is a mass, and you keep on launching newer products for different masses and making sure that your revenues is going up. That may not hold true, and is the reason why a lot of brands are now looking at profitability. The profitability is only going to come when the same consumer is coming, searching for your brand and buying the product again without even looking at the ad.
Right.
or looking at the ad just as a reminder to buy the product again, and not with as much as frequency as for a new consumer that you might need to put. So I think it becomes very, very critical, because if you try to bring down the cost of the product or to increase the AOV, either you're moving away from the right segment or the right price point or the right set of people, because it is, or you're devaluing the quality of the product to make sure that your numbers match. I understand AOV, I understand loyalty. I would want that, if they like Element, they should buy all products of Element. They should
Yeah.
not try any other brand. But that's not the truth. Even in the same household, I'm talking about Airtel now, even in the same household, when Airtel is giving a drastically amazing service, people will still have one phone of Geo. One day, probably this happens, then we should have a backup phone, things like that. Not everyone should be on the same network, that kind of a
Right.
philosophy.
Right.
That holds true here also. People see, oh, this is the hero brand for this product, I will only buy this product from this brand. So I think repeat is much more important than increasing your average order value.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. While obviously it has to be a focus area, but I don't think it has to be the primary focus area. And that is why, lesser number of products with higher percentage of hero products is a much better strategy to have than having, 50 different products for every category, subcategory, price point. Because at least as a D2C brand, it is very, very difficult to manage. Probably once you become a big FMCG conglomerate, you can have people separately focusing on each of these categories and then, taking your way.
Yeah, very well explained, Mayank, I must say, between CAC and AOV. So now let's talk about AI. So we recently had this large AI summit in India. And nowadays in 2026, so AI is everywhere. Even if it is not AI, it is AI. So if you
Correct.
throw a stone, it will hit AI for sure.
Correct.
I don't know whether it will hit the ground or not, but it will hit AI, some AI tool. But for you or your industry or your current business, so beyond just using ChatGPT
Hmm.
for creating caption and content and all,
Hmm.
how you are using AI or how you think that in the long go, AI will help your industry in an extent.
See, I think the biggest use case for BPC, specifically for AI, is going to be in the NPD designing or designing new products. When I say NPD, I mean new products that needs to be launched. Because currently a lot of it is done in a manner wherein you see the trends which are in terms of searches, you see what products are being launched, you see what stability you can get in the R&D lab, and you start with one problem and try to find a solution for it. But if you're able to do this at scale, and wherein you are able to read, or somebody is able to read what all consumers are talking about in terms of the problem that they're facing in a
Sure.
particular season, in a particular region, in a particular skin type, then you're able to specifically launch products or do research for solutions for those issues specifically. So think of it in a manner कि जब foundations होंगी, आई एम अज्यूमिंग, एंड इंडिया के लिए फाउंडेशन आई होगी, तो सबसे पहले उन्होंने जो भी कलर्स सबसे ज्यादा उनके हिसाब से चल रहे होंगे वो दो कलर्स बन, फिर उसके बाद they would have seen that there are people of different skin tones, there are people of different undertones, so they would have probably expanded it to about 7 colors, 8 colors, 9 colors variants of foundation. Then I'm not talking about nail paint colors because wo to humongous hai. I'm
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
skin tones ke undertones, and what foundation would work on what skin. Now if we have AI making these, then you can make specific products for specific certain custom people at scale without that amount of cost.
Sure.
Imagine Asian Paints ka version of the color combinations that can be given, and that can be made for ingredients to create a product specifically designed for your skin, which is specifically to the issue that you are facing. And
Yeah.
this will work wonders in skincare. Obviously it will work wonders, but in cosmetics it'll be a game changer. I think that's where the real potential of AI is going to come. I think
Sure.
there are a couple of brands that are also exploring, trying to launch products using, the data analysis being done by AI. And I'm sure we are going to see a lot of that coming in the future.
Great. Yeah. So I was working with a founder into agriculture. So he's creating products for farmer and all. So they are using AI to learn the like location wise how the soil is. They have a research and they even use AI pictures to understand what kind of problems or challenges your crop is facing and suggesting pesticides and medicine accordingly. So I see those kind of innovations can be done in health and beauty also, where we like someone taking a picture of your screen and tell exactly what are the deficiencies it is having and what kind of treatment exactly you need or what
I
kind of
think that's already
products.
there. I think there
That's
are a
already
lot of brands that have the AI mirrors where you take a selfie or you go to the studio, or when I say studio, the shop or the place of business for that brand, and it analyzes your face and the skin and gives you a thorough thing combined with the survey that you fill and recommend products to you. What I was talking about is one step ahead. What I was talking about is that at scale you are able to manufacture products specifically to your problem statement after that is analyzed.
okay.
Like, for example, if I go to get a paint for my house for painting, I will go to that Asian Paints shop and they will have this machine wherein they will, put in different colors and give out the color that you want for your wall. It is similar to that. You have the repository of all ingredients possible,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
based on what requirement you have,
Yeah. The
your
mixing happens
specific
in front of you.
moisturizer or your specific sunscreen can be made.
Okay. Okay.
So I was talking about that.
Yeah.
And that can, and a precursor to that is bringing out products by listening to the consumer voices online. What is it that the consumers are wanting? And then going a step deeper and expecting what the consumers would want. And then creating that for them specifically.
Sure. That's really lovely if possible. Definitely, and I don't see it is going to take a lot of time because if people has envisioned that, there are people who are creating it very fast. Yeah,
Correct,
that
correct,
I
correct.
see.
Say, for example, we have serums, and serums are,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
place right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's selling serum, everybody's using serums. One of the highest growth subcategories in skincare. Now, there is a 10% niacinamide, there is a 0.3% retinol, and then there are mixtures of that which are made in terms of different concentrations by experts and R&D experts. But what if I could make a connotation specifically for what you need? It probably might not be 10% niacinamide. It might be only 0.5% niacinamide. But that might be the best concentration for you because that is what you need. That's where AI is able to, can change the game.
Definitely, definitely. Now coming to the tech, the Element website, I see it's in Shopify.
Correct.
So being a tech company, which I generally ask my client a lot. So although you are a friend here, so I would like to understand what is the biggest challenges you are facing with your current tech, and what is one place where you see as a leaking point where you're leaking like funds on table. So what can be one or two things about your technology?
I think we need the answer to this is something that every founder is struggling with right now at different stages of life. What tech at what scale makes sense? That's a solution that that's a struggle, or that's a answer that you need to figure out every couple of months or couple of quarters for yourself. Like, for example, if I don't have an OTP validation before taking orders, and I get, say, 1,000 orders a day, I may be only delivering 200 out of that because of, rejections or non-verification on the, recall, or people just buying it because it was very easy to kind of place an order. Versus me doing an OTP verification and only getting 100 orders out of which 80 are getting delivered. So you are constantly trying to figure out a balance between volume, the cost to serve that volume, or do you reduce your scale and only service that volume which is profitable? So yeah, so that's something that you need to figure out specifically at a startup level. As you scale, how much tech do you want to use? Which is the problem that you would want to address first? Is it the top funnel? Is it the mid funnel leakage? Or is it the bottom funnel leakage that you would want to address first? That becomes a very, very challenging aspect. Like, for example, we were using tech. Say, for example, I am using GoQuick for my OTP validation on my Shopify store. And they are validating with OTP the consumer that is coming in. The address is getting auto populated. The consumer is coming with the address that is already there and also OTP verified. And then I have these AI bot calls also happening, doing, these confirmations or card drops and all of this, that thing. Now I met another founder, and the parallel school of thought was, Mayank, you are not at that scale only. When you reach a scale of a board, Then you put all these tech things. Why do you want to put all of these tech things right now? Because it is an added cost to you. I said, yeah, fine, but I don't waste my resources in sending, packages up and down, no? That you're sending a package, then you're returning a package, then you're calculating that how much of it got damaged, how much of it did not come back, and all of these things. But he said, but that's not a problem, no. Understand, it will become only a problem when you get a certain number of orders. And then it becomes not manageable for you, because assume the amount of money that you're putting Go Quick or Byte Speed or whatever integrations that you've done, and just see how many orders are you can waste with that. So because he says that at least figure out what is the scale that you can reach when there is no friction at all, and see how many consumers are actually buying your product, or what is the basic lowest amount of CAC that you get. Now this is a struggle, because I see that at one given point of time I can not do these validations and see the scale that I can reach as early as possible, the lowest CAC that I can get to. But at the same time, I know that I am feeding in garbage in the system, specifically for my logistics and my courier teams, wherein I know that half of the orders or 40% of the orders are in any case going to come back.
Sure.
Which will, have its own sets of problems, more experience, things like that. Morale of the team, which becomes very, very important, specifically when you're in a startup. बिकॉज इफ यू फील के यार मेरे तो 1000 ऑर्डर निकल रहे हैं बट मेरे 300 ऑर्डर वापस आ जाते हैं दिन के, तो अंडरस्टैंड द मोरल ऑफ दैट गाय. ही विल से कि यार ये पता नहीं कौन से ऑर्डर आ रहे हैं जो अंडरस्टैंड, बिकॉज ही वुड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एट द गाय सिटिंग एट द वेयर हाउस. ही वुड सी यार ब्रांड बकवास है यार, देखो इतने सारे ऑर्डर मेरे रोज वापस आ जाते हैं, मैं क्यों इतनी मेहनत कर रहा हूँ. So these are some of the struggles that I don't have an answer to, and I have to, as a founder, figure out what is the right thing to do every day.
Sure.
And that founder friend of mine, he absolutely said कि नहीं Mayank, सब बंद कर दे. Stop this Go Quick, stop this Byte Speed, do no integration. You are working in a PMF stage. This is the best stage for you to be in. Don't do any integration. Let's see what is the highest volume of orders you get. And which probably was the school of thought, say 5 years down earlier also. So I don't know what is right, what is not right. So you keep on experimenting and you keep on trying to figure out what works, what does not work.
True. Do you allow COD?
I do allow COD.
How much percentage of your order is COD?
So as an experiment, I have stopped Go Quick right now. So currently 100% of my orders are coming COD.
Okay.
But that's a figure which is just now. Usually about 40% of the orders are prepaid for me.
Prepaid. And what is the return percentage?
About 12%. Because most of the, the orders were verified by OTP and the addresses were verified. And, we also do a calling on COD orders before we dispatch it.
Wow. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Sure. I think that is a good challenge to solve and maybe a longer discussion to carry out on that. So, Mayank, it was lovely talking to you. We are almost in the last segment of this podcast. So, let's have a quick rapid fire on a couple of questions I will have. So, tell me 3 AI tools you use on a daily basis.
So, I have Perplexity, I have ChatGPT, I have FreePick. I think the team also uses Canva. I don't know if Canva can be counted as an AI tool.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of.
I think Gemini is their own phone, but yeah, that's not a paid.
What is FreePick? I haven't used
FreePick.
What is that?
FreePick.
FreePick. Yeah, what is that?
It helps you make those left cards and A+ for products. It's a image and video. So the ones that I said earlier are all paid subscriptions that I have.
Okay. And you have so many anime. So you use any AI tool to animate them actually? Have you tried that out?
No, actually till now we've not used an AI tool because the faces were getting changed. So what we've done is we've always used animator to kind of make the videos that are there on the website for the animation. And even these characters are handmade. These are not anime characters.
We have been recently using Grok a lot and it has done a lot of it has become better day by day.
So basically what's happening is FreePick has all of these models and Grok is also one of the models. So for the same prompt, you can see different outputs from different models at one place. That's what FreePick does.
Okay, that's really nice. That's really nice. I will definitely try that out. Now, tell me one myth you wanted to break about your category for everyone.
I think one myth that I wanted to break for my category is that boys don't care for skincare. I think they do. I think because of the societal pressures, they are not very vocal and open about it. They do care about themselves, but I think they feel that their friends will make fun of them. Their elder brother will make fun of them and will tell them things like कि शेरों के किसने मुंह धोए हैं, तुम कहाँ करने लग गए हो श्रृंगार ये वो वगैरह. But that's not true. I think they deeply care about it. That's, I think, a myth, and that is what I'm trying to break by creating this category on my own in a sense.
Sure. 2 or 3 brands you love a lot, like the way they have presented themselves or the entire service ho gaya, kuch bhi, whatever. One of 2 or 3 brands that you loved a lot and why?
I think I am absolutely in love with Airtel. I think from the time that I have worked with them and being a consumer throughout, I think their customer centricity is something that I can vouch for. And usually what happens is when you work for a brand, you realize कि नहीं यार वो तो इतना अच्छा है नहीं जितना लगता है, और वो actually में है. So मतलब that's one brand that मतलब I really stand for. I know there is a nostalgia that is also attached to it, but I think the people there really, and people at the top are very sensible, and they try to get the best things for you. So I really admire the brand. I also admire Samsung a lot. Again, it was also an old employer for me. I think as a brand, the products that they launch are brilliant products. The amount of thought, the amount of research that they do, the systems that they have in place are amazing systems.
Any beauty brand that you look up to when you are planning anything new for your brand?
I think the whole experience that Dyson gives online in terms of their website, in terms of how it tells about the product and how they go about the entire experience of the website. I like Dyson a lot. I don't think everything that they do is replicable for my category, but I think I really like the experience that they try to give.
Lovely, yeah. So out of this 5 anime character you have, which character you relate personally a lot?
I think I relate to Oro the most. I am a avid anime watcher.
Yeah.
I got exposed to Naruto when I was in engineering, and then Death
Okay.
Notes and or the likes. I think, yeah.
One thing you miss about Chandigarh a lot.
Actually, I don't. Yeah, I go every month, every couple of weeks. But I feel the pollution level is very low there. I think from a standpoint of closeness to nature and the environment that it brings in, I think that is something that I miss in Gurgaon. I think most of the days it's very hazy, specifically in winters. I wish we could do something about it at a scale.
Awesome. What is the one new category or product you are looking forward to start for Element?
Right now, I am not looking at any NPDs. Right now, I think I have products across all different categories. I have hair care, I have body care, I have skin care. Skin care, maybe I have sunscreens, moisturizers, and face washes. I will probably see what is working and then probably make a little more variants around it. Like, for example, if shampoo is actually working, then probably shampoos for different hair types is what I'll get into and be a little more specific. If I feel that, skincare is working, like for example, if moisturizers are doing well, do we need a body lotion also? So yeah, but it will all be dependent on data on what the consumers are taking. I don't want to just launch products from the sake of के launch हो गया तो sale आ जाएगी उसकी और additional. That's not what I'm going for right now.
Oh, if you have to explain your brand in 20 seconds, how will you do that?
I think Elemen is the first skincare brand for boys. It's a brand which makes products which work with boys at their pace, their speeds, and their requirements. If they want a one-stop solution, we'll give a one-stop solution. It's a brand that they should feel proud to use, and they should feel proud to recommend to their friends and become part of an Elemen squad.
One last question. What is the one category you think, like maybe for D2C brand, which can become huge in future and not that exciting right now, but will become huge in future? Maybe boys beauty is one of them, I guess.
Boys beauty is obviously one of them. That is why I got into this.
Yeah.
I think teenage male personal care, beauty care, whatever vanity products is something that will work very well. I think tailwinds are right. That is why I am in this space and it is doing to great numbers.
One question I missed I was planning to ask this question, but I think I missed it. So you are working with Gen Z a lot, right? And that is a code which everyone in our industry is trying to crack, how to work with Gen Z. They are very different kind of behavior they bring into the table. To be true, for my personal experience, I've seen them technically much more advanced and ready to take challenges. What is your experiences on Gen Z? And what do you suggest if I wanted to work with Gen Z and like based on your experience, what can we do to have the best of Gen Z working with us seamlessly?
I think what has worked for me, and in this organization or my previous organization also, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of Gen Zs. I think what has really worked is you tell them the end goal that you're looking for, and
Wow.
don't
Yeah.
tell them the workflow to get to that. Make them responsible for an end goal, and let them come to you and ask for suggestions instead of telling them that, this is what you need to do and this is how you go about it. And money, I don't think, is a motivator for them as much as it was for us. Like, for example, for the sales team, if I give them an incentive and tell them कि अरे इतना percent commission है, तुम इतना करोगे तो इतना तुम्हारे पास है. I think better motivator for them will be that let's make the organization or this percentage RMS organization at this particular platform. And let's figure out ways to do that. And they will experiment 10, 15, 30 different ways. And then they'll tell you, okay, this has worked, not worked. And then they will ask you, what do you think we should do additionally? And that's where you tell them that in your experience, that is the kind of workflow that has worked in the past. Instead of, if you give them a solution directly without being asked for, there is a high probability they're not going to follow it in any case.
Wow. So tell me, if a 15-year-old boy watching this and who struggles with acne and confidence, what will be your like advice to him?
See, my advice to him will be don't pop your pimples at all. It is going to leave a scar. It is going to leave a mark. It is going to leave acne pits. Don't do it. You have to work on it. Don't go in for marketing solutions like salicylic acid, acne patches, just because you have to go to a party 2 days from now or you have some outing next week. Go for a long-term solution. Go for Elemen's acne cream, acne face wash. Used together, it might take you 15 to 20 days. But then the reason for why that acne is coming will go down. Future breakouts will reduce. That is what you should go for.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Mayank. I'm sure this is like one of the most value-adding podcasts we have done, especially when we are for the first time targeting to a very different segment, very different audience. And to me, I think building a brand where like following the trend is very easy, but when you're building something for an ignored audience, this is really it takes a lot of conviction. Thank you so much, and I hope Element do awesome the way it is going. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Vineet. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Vineet. Thanks.
Sure.